Hi, this is Craig again. We're going to do a little bit of work with the paint tool. We're just going to be in the 2D, so it's not going to be that complicated. This is Blender 274. We had a new addition to the controls for the paint where you have the strokes line and curve, but now with line you can constrain to 45-degree increments with just pressing Control key. Um, let's go ahead and get into paint. I usually keep the toolbar on the right and switch it by pressing F5, and I've left it over there. New image, click there for the color. I'm going to go to HSV so I can get the value. Type in 0.5 to get a 50% gray, or that's what I think it is that, and then hit OK. Okay, as an eraser, I'd like to use that color, so I'm going to be painting in white. So I'm going to press X to switch to the secondary color, S to sample the gray, back to white with the X. Strength is at 0.7. I'm not going to worry about it too much. Anyway, we're looking at some different thumbnails, very quick thumbnails. Press E for your stroke. I'm going to choose line. F for the scale of the line. Yeah, I've got a little dot. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and press Control while I'm using these lines. And I'm going to just kind of work with some shapes. Basically like this. And what it was is I saw something from somebody. Jerry Perkins was working on some thumbnails of models, and I just noticed that he was doing some really cool stuff, but I noticed that there was something about the way he had built the guns that I was kind of questioning. But then I thought, well, why don't I just do some myself and just see if I'm right or if I'm just off my rocker. And then I had just started having fun. So once you start having fun, that's usually when you know you're doing something cool. Um, Sometimes it's not good to have everything being exactly even, so a little bit off 45 and stuff, but I've got like a little cool little shape there. So I'll go ahead and hit X again and go back to white, and then now I'm gonna think of maybe something a little bit more like a handle on top, a square shape here like this, and a stock, and just kind of fill it in. I'm gonna go to the handle here, and I'm probably gonna need to clear that back up. I'll go ahead and just give it a, hey, I'm just not really happy with that, but let's go ahead and fill this in. So the thing is that when you're using the lines, you can kind of fill in areas and just pull it. I quickly discovered earlier it's better not to work with trying to, get too crazy with the line thickness, because you'll start to get results that'll get kind of fuzzy. So sticking to one size and letting it go that way seems like it works better. And then sometimes you can kind of get some really cool shapes from the randoms. Just do it like that. And do it like that. So that's an interesting shape. And then maybe one like more of a snub. I'll go the other direction. Just a little bit like this. And then That's not too bad. Okay, so after you got, I could do a whole bunch more, and I did some more. Let me see here. I'm going to open up one of the ones I did earlier. And so I had already done a bunch of these, and I started working on this one down on the bottom. And what I did was I loaded it up as a stencil and put it on a bigger image. And with that image, that was let me see here, like that. And then I started working in the outsides and insides and stuff, and start cleaning it up. So you can see here, there's got a lot more sharper edges and stuff, and that's just a matter of just cleaning something up. So let me go ahead and we'll go back to our picture we were working on. And I think what I'll do is I'll work with this big one right here, or not the biggest one, but this one right here. And we'll play around with that one. I'm going to go ahead and save this image, save as image, and I'll go to desktop. And you don't need the alpha if you're just going to load it up as a RGB. So changing that will keep your size down a little bit. Okay, then I'm going to make a new image. Image new. I'm going to go with the 1920 1080. I'm going with the gray as a backdrop. Okay, and that gives me enough room to work. Now for the brush, I'm going to go ahead and use that image that we had made of samples, mapping to clip, and I'm going to set that to stencil. And sometimes they don't show up, so I'm going to change to view, change back to paint, and then it's there. Right mouse button to move it around, shift right mouse button to enlarge it, and I'm going to have to enlarge it quite a bit to match my workspace, and that's pretty good. You make my brush bigger with F. Oops, and I forgot to turn off my line, so I'm going to use space so I can just kind of stencil this on. And once you see it like that, it's not all that great. We'll go ahead and X that off so we don't need that anymore. And so there we go, we've got this shape here. So I want to go back and clean it up a little bit because it's pretty rough. So I'm going to go back to line, and I'm just trying to make sure I've got a completely solid form, because I want to use the fill tool to give myself something to work with. And I'm actually going to cut some of this out again because I think I've got too much business going on right now. So getting that kind of thing, I still like I said, I use the Control key down to make everything in a 45, and it's because mainly because mechanically most angles you're going to see with something like this, they're going to either be 90s or 45s, uh, only because you're talking about something that's machined. And I'm just, the basic silhouette is what I'm doing right here. And there's plenty of people that can do way better jobs with actual design, and then when somebody goes to 3D with an idea that you've done, usually they can actually add things that you couldn't have imagined before. So it's cool. I think I'm going to just get rid of that and go a little bit snubbier. Not sure what's going on there. I think I'm going to go ahead and fill that in and we'll just break it. What I mean is we'll cut in later with the details that we make. But if we've got a solid, we'll be able to work with it easier. Same thing for this area. I need to clean it up. I think I'm getting out of hand because I'm getting too crazy with trying to do everything now with cutting in things that I'm not sure about. I'm going to go ahead and build some of this back in. I can cut back later. Okay. I'm just afraid of having these fuzzy edges. I know it looks okay at first, but after a while those fuzzy edges can kind of get you. So just want to cut them out. Okay. So here we are. I'm going to go ahead and save this image. Save as image, and we're going to just make it, we're going to save it the same as the other. Well, press that and I can find the one okay. Sample 1, I'm going to go with sample 2. Just press that plus sign. And then that way I can keep incrementing. The way I did this earlier was I actually went to the fill tool and S to sample this background, and I tapped in here a couple of times, got it really sharp, and then pressed it in here. But I think what is going on is I don't have all the same tone of white over here. I really need to fix that up. I'll go ahead and fill that in. I can barely see it, but it's there. Okay. Fill tool. Basically what I've got now is I've got this white outline, and I can start working on just changing this up. So for right now I'm going to just stretch out my window, go back to the draw, and I'm going to go X, go back to the gray, which is fine, but now I'm going to take the power down some. I'm going to change it to multiply, and I'm going to just start working on this idea that I've got to find where the darker areas are here, and I start to see it, and so now I'm going to probably start cutting lines in. So similar to what we did earlier, I'm going to change the line and use Ctrl to keep the lines together, 90s. paint curve's kind of heavy, so I'm going to take that down a little bit. And some of this is not going to be that great. I'm not exactly an expert at guns, but I did have an idea what I wanted to do at first, so if I can just get that out here, maybe I can start seeing some way to actually get this going. Okay, so starting to get there. Maybe I can make that a pistol grip or something, or maybe that make that a place where you can put your hands. But either way, I'm gonna cut through my lines, make a different piece here. Okay, so for the most part, this will work. I would need to do some stuff with just the regular space. Actually, let me go with anchored. So I want to put strong part there and there. Those aren't coming in as strong as I want, so I'm going to have to change the curve. And there you go. Let's work it out like that. And we'll do some more stuff in a little while. Okay, so now we're starting to get something that feels like it's got some form to it. But now what I'm going to do is turn the power way down and go back to the line. Like I said, there's not much to this. If you're careful, you can kind of get some really good tones by just overlaying the lines. And you can still repaint around and even things out with a smooth brush. I mean, something similar to anyway, we start getting the tones in here and you start building this out, then you can actually come back and paint on top with mix instead of just the multiply. And go back to space. We'll kind of just start working on areas. We're going to go back to mix and a little stronger. We'll just start sampling from underneath and just kind of bringing a little bit of that color on top. To smooth things out just a little bit. You don't want to get crazy. Well, or maybe you want to. I mean, it's possible. Sometimes things just happy accidents happen. But to get some depth to it, I also need to come back and put highlights. Now I'm trying to flatten that in because that's got to go inward, but I want it to be part of the same piece sitting on top. We'll fix this up a little bit more after we kind of work it out. Make sure we got everything where we want it. Okay, starting to get there. We'll come back and we'll put some highlights here to kind of give it some thickness. Go add a smaller. We're going to go right back to line, holding down Control to get our edge. Oops. And these are just block ends. I'm going to have to do a lot more work if I'm going to actually make this something nice. But back at it, it's starting to come together compared to where it was. But I'm still not, I got a lot of work to do with this. I'd like to show you how to use a brush to get something going on with it while we're working with it. Let me see here. Give me just enough room. Actually, a brush mask. Which is a texture mask here, which is We're going to go with distorted noise. Where's that at? There we go. Colors, ramp, come down, come back like that. We're just going to go with this. We want like that. We want our paint to go where the white is and then leave the bits where it's black. So what I'm going to do is, since I'm working with that, I'm going to go with multiply first, make it pretty decent size, and test it out here. Oops. That's the other thing. I need space for right now. See, if you do that, you get this thing going on. But at the same time, I want a little bit better, a little bit bigger of a detail. So I can go larger. That gets giant details, but that's too much. So the easy way to do this is to actually manipulate it, get your brush the rough size that you want for your stroke. Then we're going to go down here and we're going to play that down to 0.2, 0.2, 0.2, and then we'll make a line, go across, and that's too much, and the details are too large. So then we'll go ahead and go with 1.2, 1.2, 1.2. It's a little bit better, but that's I was just doing that so you can see it. But what we want to do is go to space, Shift F, bring the power down quite a bit, and then work this in where it's going to be dark where we want it. In other words, don't put it everywhere. If you do that, then you'll just look like you filled in the whole thing. Just where you want some sort of variation on the metal. And we can try a little bit more, a little bit less. Then try add. Okay. Now another thing we can do for realism is to get some scratches going on, and I don't think I've got a scratch brush here. Nope. We're going to need to make one. So we're going to go to text draw and make a second iteration. Call that scratch. And here we're going to disjoint that. We're going to add a blend texture. And in the ramp, we're going to pull the black way over here. Pull the white way up close to it. Click on the other side of the black so you make another one, and then drag it just above, just past. And here we're going to set this to view plane, and we're going to turn on rake. I'm going to keep this as add for right now. can kind of see it here. So you can turn around and actually use it for some of the details that you put in. And starts giving you some areas of interest. You can turn around and change it to multiply in some areas. And then change it back to add in the same area. Sometimes that overlaying of the two kinds of scratches makes it feel better. And we really need a lot more detail than what I'm doing, but I'm trying to show you and paint at the same time, and it's just not quite as easy. And then here we can go in with our multiply and change from that to cloud. Excuse me. And then disconnect that. Okay. And then, like I said, we can go with some other details. Go with like multiply with our curve. Anchored. Like that. And then maybe go with mix at the same time. Multiply. Mix. Okay. And then we can go and detail those as well. So scratch. Okay, well, anyway, that's pretty much what I was doing earlier today. And if you want, you can even go back and try to fill in other things with a fill tool. Um, because basically, if you have it set right, you've got the ability to drop in colors like, but you have to be careful of the threshold. It's pretty much what it comes down to. So you can turn around and black that in, or depends on what you want to do. Alright, well, hopefully this time I don't mess up the audio on the tutorial, and I hope it helped out with some ideas on what you can do with painting. Alright, thanks a lot, and have a good one.